The countdown clock on the big screen said 0:30, 30 minutes until the city's promised start of Rikers shutdown. Reporters aimed cameras. Protesters chanted outside City Hall. Inside, a deputy mayor lifted a hand as if he could push time itself. Then every phone in the room buzzed at once. An alert flashed, coastal flood warning, East River surge likely. A second alert followed it, Rikers Bridge, partial closure due to high winds. The deputy mayor went pale. "We can't move anyone," he said. "The bridge is unsafe." A council member spoke into the mic, "Are you telling us the closing plan can't start because the island is an island?" Before anyone could answer, a third message hit the screen, this one from a judge: "Emergency order. Pause the transfer of detainees until safety and staffing plans are verified. 3 walls rose in 3 minutes, weather, a bridge, and a court order." The clock kept ticking. The room went quiet, the kind of quiet that means trouble is bigger than words. This is why Rikers Island is so hard to shut down. And this is where our story begins. Let's rewind to the morning, before the warnings, before the clock, before the room fell silent. The sun crawled up over LaGuardia's runways, painting the East River a tired gray. On Rikers, Officer Rivera checked a gate that sometimes stuck. He pressed the button, listened for the buzz, and wrote "stiff hinge" again on his log. He'd worked here long enough to know that small things become big things in a place like this. Down the hall, Nurse Tanya unlocked the clinic. She laid out blood pressure cuffs, tiny paper cups for medicine, and a stack of forms labeled mental health check, intake. She texted her mother, "Can you pick up Mia from school? I might be late." Her mom replied with a thumbs up and a heart. Across the river in the Bronx, a planner named Jordan rolled up a set of maps for the new borough jails that were supposed to replace Rikers. The maps showed heights, setbacks, flood lines, and little red boxes labeled community board objections. He stuffed them into a tube and whispered to himself, "Please let today go right." At City Hall, Public Defender Anna sipped cold coffee and reread the plan everyone liked to say out loud: close the island. Build smaller jails near courts. Cut the jail population. On a good day, that plan sounded simple. Today, she felt the weight of every piece that could fall apart. By mid-morning, the city felt like a machine waking up, buses groaning, turnstiles clicking, office towers blinking awake. On Rikers, the machine also woke up, counts, trays, doors, lists. A line of men in orange waited for medical checks. Another line waited for court runs. In a quiet corner, a man practiced breathing in 4s, just like Tanya had taught him. Then the day's first high hit, a small cheer in a hallway as a bulletin board notice went up: shutdown begins today, Phase 1. People took photos. Officers traded tired smiles. Even the air felt lighter for a moment, but the lows showed up too, quick as shadows. Jordan stood before a community board in Queens with his tube of maps. A member pointed at the red numbers. "This building is too tall. It doesn't fit the block." Another said, "Where do staff park?" A third said, "Why is the city rushing us?" Jordan kept his voice even. "If we don't finish these buildings, we can't close the island." He left with a new list of changes and no vote. At the same time, a union rep met with city lawyers about staffing. "You can't close one place and open 4 others with fewer officers," she said. "You want safer jails? Staff them." The lawyer nodded and talked about budget gaps. The rep didn't blink. "Find the money," she said. "Or find chaos." Back at City Hall, Anna sat with a row of mothers holding folders thick with court papers. Rosa, whose son Devin was waiting on Rikers, squeezed her hands together. "They said he'd be closer to home," she whispered. "If they shut it down, does that mean today?" Anna chose her words like she was walking on glass. "It means the plan starts," she said. "It means we have to hold them to it." The truth is simple to say and hard to live. Rikers is hard to shut down because it is tied to everything else. Courts. Cops. Unions. Budgets. Neighborhood votes. New buildings that must pass long reviews. Old buildings that break small, then break big. And always, people. People who must be moved safely, with medicine, with records, with care. You can't just turn off a place like this. You have to build a bridge off it while you're still standing on it. By noon, clouds stacked over the river. The wind rose. Rivera's gate stuck again. He wrote hinge worse in wind and shook his head. Tanya's clinic filled faster than usual, headaches, worry, a man who hadn't slept in 2 days. In 4, hold 4, out 4, she said, and the man nodded, eyes wet. The afternoon brought another high, a press event at City Hall. A big clock on a screen behind the podium. 2 o'clock, 2 hours to the start. Jordan arrived with his maps. The union rep arrived with a fixed stare. Anna arrived with Rosa and the other families. Cameras clicked. A deputy mayor said, "Today, we begin the end of a chapter." Then the wind howled, and the river rose, phones buzzed with the flood warning. A second buzz announced the bridge issue. Officers on Rikers reported spray hitting the guardrails. A drone camera sent back a shot of white water slamming the pilings like someone banging on a door. The harbor office called, "Strong surge. Might worsen with the tide." "Can we move anybody?" the deputy mayor asked, not safely, so. Mion said, "Then hold," someone else said, "Hold." The word that shows up when plans meet weather, when hope meets risk. The third blow was not wind or water. It was paper. A judge signed an emergency order after reading 2 filings, one from the Federal Monitor about staff shortages, one from a health provider about medication supplies for transfers. The order did not say never. It said not yet. But not yet can feel a lot like no when the clock reads 00:30. Inside City Hall, the temperature dropped without the air ever changing. Reporters started whispering. The union rep folded her arms. Jordan pressed his lips tight around 100 new headaches. Rosa stared at the clock and mouthed a prayer. Anna's phone lit up with a text from a colleague on the island, "Bridge half closed. Generators ready. We're bracing." On Rikers, Rivera found Tanya at the clinic door, watching the sky go from gray to steel. "You ever think we'll really close?" he asked. "I think we'll try," she said. "And I think the trying will hurt." A siren wound up outside, long and low. The wind pushed a sheet of rain across the yard. The East River looked like it was marching forward. City Hall's doors rattled as the storm hit. The deputy mayor leaned to the mic again. "We will follow the court's order," he said, voice careful. "We will protect safety first." A reporter shouted, "So the shutdown is delayed?" The answer came wrapped in safe words. The clock kept going anyway. Jordan opened his map tube and stared at the red boxes that meant more meetings, more votes, more months. Anna put a hand on Rosa's shoulder. "We won't stop," she said. Rosa nodded, but her eyes were on the screen showing the island under rain. Back on the bridge, a police car blocked a lane as a gust shoved the water higher. A transit bus sat still, wipers slapping, lights blurry in the spray. On the island road, a work true. CK stalled, then coughed back to life. Little things. Big things. All at once, then the island coughed too. The lights in one building flickered. A generator kicked, stuttered, caught. Rivera's radio crackled with 3 messages at once. In the clinic, a box of paper gowns slid off a shelf. Tanya grabbed the stack and laughed once, short and tired. "Stay," she told the gowns, like they were dogs. An alarm tone cut across the storm, then another. "Facility alert, perimeter pump 2, fault." A second line chased it, "Perimeter pump 3, fault." The pumps kept water where it should be. Fault meant maybe they wouldn't. Rivera looked at the floor drain in the corridor as if it might answer him. It did not. At City Hall, the storm feed switched to a live shot from the island south yard. Water rolled over the curb and into the grass. The deputy mayor went very still. "How high can it get?" he asked. A voice answered from off-camera, "Higher." Anna felt her throat tighten. Jordan whispered to no one, "Flood maps. We showed them this. We showed them." Rosa squeezed her folder so hard the edges bent, the clock hit 00:01. On Rikers, a captain keyed his mic, all units, prepare to relocate low-lying posts. Move meds and charts to high shelves. Keep count tight. Stay calm. The words were steady. The air was not. Tanya lifted a case of insulin to the top cabinet. In 4, she told herself, hold 4, out 4. Rivera pushed his shoulder into the stubborn gate until the hinge groaned open. Rain blew in sideways. The wind made a low, animal sound. The city hall clock hit midnight. No ribbon cut. No door closed. Just a room full of people watching water creep across a yard, and an order on a screen saying not yet, and a bridge that could not carry the weight of a promise. Then something new happened. The camera on the island trembled and refocused on a dark rectangle by the south fence, a storm drain lid bobbing in place. It lifted once, twice, and then popped free like a coin from a.s. lot. Water boiled up through the hole, turned, and rushed toward a low doorway marked intake support. Rivera heard the same rush as a far-off hiss that became a shout. Close that door, someone yelled. Boots slammed. Keys clattered. The wind roared. The water ran faster. In City Hall, the deputy mayor lowered his head. Anna closed her eyes. Jordan unrolled a new map with blue lines no one wanted to see. Rosa whispered, please. On the island, the door at intake support started to swing shut, slow, so slow, against the push of water. If it sealed, the building would hold. If it didn't, the water would run the hallway. If the hallway flooded, the clinic would, too. Tanya stood in that hallway with both hands on the handle, shoes already wet, legs braced. Almost, she breathed, almost. A surge climbed over her ankles, the door shuddered, and in that 1 second, between hold and break, between promise and storm, the city learned another reason why Rikers is so hard to shut down, because even when you're ready to walk away, the island can still pull you back with something only you can fix right now. The wind screamed, the lights flickered, and the door began to move. 1 inch, then 2, just as a new alarm started to wail. Evac route compromised. All units, prepare to shelter in place. The chapter ends with Tanya's hand slipping on the wet metal, Rivera running into the rushing water, and the door that decides whether the plan bends or breaks. The wind still howled over Rikers Island long after the worst of the storm had passed. By dawn, the air was heavy with the smell of wet concrete and fuel from the generators. The bridge was closed except for emergency use, and the East River still lapped at the edge of the yard like it was testing the fences. Inside the clinic, Tanya sat on an overturned supply box, soaked to the knees, her hands trembling from exhaustion. Rivera leaned against the wall opposite her, his uniform streaked with mud. They had managed to shut the door before the water swallowed the hallway completely. The floor still shone with puddles, but the clinic had held. Outside, the pumps hummed again, working to push the river back where it belonged, 3 inches higher, and we would have lost this whole floor, Rivera said quietly. Tanya nodded, staring at the drain. And that would have been the end of the plan, too. It was strange, she thought, all the years of meetings, blueprints, press conferences, and debates, and in the end, what stopped the closure wasn't a law or a vote. It was the island itself. While crews inspected the flood damage, downtown, officials gathered again. The mayor's office blamed the weather. The unions blamed the city. Activists blamed politics. And the island, silent and surrounded by water, went back to doing what it always did, holding people who had nowhere else to go. A few days later, the news cycle had already shifted. The storm was old news, but the failure to close Rikers had become another headline in a long list of broken promises. Anna, the public defender, watched the reports on her phone as she rode the subway to the Bronx courthouse. A reporter's voice said, despite delays, the city insists the plan to close Rikers remains on track. Anna sighed. She had heard that phrase too many times. On track, she murmured. Just not moving. When she reached the courthouse, Rosa was waiting outside, clutching her folder. They said Devon's court date got pushed again, Rosa said. Is it because of the storm? Anna hesitated. Partly. They're still sorting out which cases to move, which ones to hold. It's complicated. Rosa frowned. Everything's complicated when it's poor people. Anna didn't argue. She couldn't dot on the island. The day started like any other, except for the hum of temporary generators and the piles of sandbags stacked near the gates. Officer Rivera watched as detainees shuffled toward the mess hall. He recognized a few faces, the ones who had helped carry supplies during the storm. One of them, a quiet man named Ellis, stopped to ask, "So when's that shutdown happening now?" Rivera shrugged. "Same answer as always, soon." Ellis smirked. "Soon's been 5 years, man." He walked off before Rivera could respond. In the administration office, the warden sat at his desk, staring at a thick stack of inspection reports. A young aide came in. "Sir, City Hall wants an update. How bad's the damage?" The warden flipped a page. "Less than it could have been. More than they'll want to pay for. Should I tell them repairs might delay the closure timeline?" The warden gave a dry laugh. "They'll figure that out without me saying it." Meanwhile, across the river, Planner Jordan was back at his desk, redrawing the maps for the borough jails. The flood zones had to be re-evaluated, the budgets recalculated, and the timeline pushed back, again. His supervisor walked in with a cup of coffee and said, "City Council wants a new cost estimate by next week. They're already asking who's to blame." Jordan rubbed his eyes. "We build too slow, they say we're dragging our feet. We build too fast, they say we're reckless." The supervisor nodded. "Welcome to public service." Jordan looked at the red circles on his blueprint, the neighborhoods fighting against new jails. No one wanted Rikers open, but no one wanted its replacement next door either. He closed the map tube and whispered to himself, "How do you close something everyone hates but no one will replace?" That night, as rain tapped gently against the clinic windows, Tanya finished logging medication counts. The hallway still smelled faintly of river water. Rivera stopped by the door. "They say another storm's coming next week." "Of course she said, smiling faintly. "Guess we'll see if the pumps work this time." She didn't answer. Instead, she looked at the row of empty chairs, the same chairs that had been underwater 3 nights ago, and thought about the people who sat in them every day, waiting for checkups, prescriptions, or just a kind word. "Do you ever think it'll really close?" Rivera asked again, his voice softer this time. Tanya exhaled. "If it does, it won't be because the city said so. It'll be because the island's too tired to hold itself up anymore." The next morning, the news showed footage of the island from above, a patch of gray concrete surrounded by brown water, still glistening from the storm. The reporter said, "Officials confirm Rikers will remain open indefinitely while repairs continue." In the Bronx, Anna paused the video on her phone and muttered, "Indefinitely, that's just another word for forever." And on the island, as the first shift of officers clocked in, a new alert popped up on the monitors: "Storm watch, potential river rise in 72 hours, Rivera looked at Tanya. She looked back at him. The same door they had fought to hold shut still had a faint watermark halfway up the metal, and just like that, the story circled back to where it began: an island that refuses to close, a city that can't let go, and people caught between both. The camera would pull back slowly, the East River glinting, Manhattan faint in the distance, as a single line fades in on the screen: Rikers Island, still standing. For now.